In today's video, I am sharing 3 tips to use on your next winter layout. Hi, I'm Katie Taylor at scrappinkaty.com, where I show you how to preserve your family's memories through the art of scrapbooking. I have pulled the Gnomes for Winter collection to scrapbook some snow photos. Remember that November is no new photos November. And so I've pulled these old photos of when it snowed in my part of Texas, which doesn't happen very often, but we sure do love when it does. And you can notice a few things about these photos. I mean, they're indicative of your old style where you didn't have filters. You couldn't take 100 photos to make sure you had the right one. But I'm going to go through just some tips and tricks on how to scrapbook snow photos. So I have those photos, and like I said, I have the Gnomes for Winter. So the Gnomes for Winter comes with this cute little ice skating gnome. I'm hoping to fit this on the layout somewhere, somehow, but we'll see. But it is a thin cut. It also comes with these little winter acrylic shapes, which are just all sizes and shapes of snowflakes. And then you've got the sticker sheet and the pattern papers. Love those pattern papers. And remember that our pattern papers are two-sided. So you'll get 2 sheets, and then they have one side is like the words and then the other side is the stripes. So if you don't like the words, then you can just use both of the stripes. And then I've also pulled out some of the the Gnomes for Winter cardstock, and I'll be using those for photo mats and then my base page. So I'm going to leave the paper on here just for a second to talk about the number one thing when working with winter photos. So you'll notice here that you've got a lot of snow, but then you've got a lot of random colors. And if you follow me here, you know that usually my photo choice, I don't really matchy with the paper. I actually let the paper complement my photos. And so that's what I'm doing here. You'll notice here that my paper doesn't have orange and it doesn't have red, but I do have some blues and grays of our middle son's jacket. And then of course my husband back here has got navy blue jacket, and then gray sweats. So that is why I have pulled the Gnomes for Winter. I've also pulled it because it's brand new and I want to play with it. But you know here that I will use what I want to use no matter if it's current or not. So that is the first thing, is to choose your papers that complement your winter photos, aren't necessarily matchy, and they don't have to be snow papers. So you can see that we only have this one snow pattern here. Otherwise, we have this one that's kind of cold. We have the stripe, which just is a good striped paper with all the blues and the greens and the browns. And then we have this plaid. Again, just some blues that can be used for anything. And then you have these 2 icon papers. Now these are winter themed, but we'll see how much I actually use of these. So my next tip for winter photos and winter layouts is don't be afraid to crop your photos. So in this case, I have picked out a few that I definitely want to keep the 4x6 size because they show either the landscape. So this one right here, this is our old house. This is where basically our 2 youngest boys grew up, and then we moved to our current house. But they have a lot of memories here. And so I definitely want to keep this street view intact. So that one is going to stay a 4x6, not only to mention just the joy that our son is having as my husband is throwing him up in the air. These 2, I haven't quite decided yet. I'm really liking this one for a couple of reasons. Number one, it shows the front of our house. So again, a memory that you want to keep intact. And then it also shows the snowflakes, which rarely ever happens. And then it shows just the amount of snow. So I'm probably going to keep that one 4x6, even though it's not a perfect quality photo. I definitely want to keep this one because it's the only front view of our house. This one is a duplicate. Again, it's the street view, so I may or may not keep this one. I may actually do a flip flap and it may be hidden. And then we have these. Now, these are similar. And then also, I have already captured the blanket of snow that we have in the 4x6s that I'm keeping. I am going to keep this one. I'm going to trim it down to a 4x4 because this is our my husband's red car that he had when we first started dating. And then, of course, our two oldest sons remember this red car. Now, granted, he does not have it anymore, but he always talks about it. And so our other two youngest kids kind of know of the red car. So I definitely want to keep that one, but I can trim it down to a 4x4. These two are very similar in nature, and all I really need is this right here. I don't need the street view anymore. I already have that, and I don't need the car anymore because I already have that. So these are probably going to be 3x4s. And then I have these two. Now, I've kind of struggled with this one because our oldest son is throwing a snowball. You can't see the snowball. You can see the joy on his face. And so I'm tempted to keep it a 4x6. Definitely it will be at least a 4x4. You know, so we're talking that right there. And then this one is probably going to be another 3x4. I don't need a whole lot of the red car, but it is one of the only ones that just our middle son is in. So in this instance, if you have children that count how many photos you include of the other sibling, in this case, I have a single photo of our oldest son and I have a single photo of our middle son. And that's the reason I want to keep this one. Now, I can't really tell, again, because of the quality, I can't tell what he has in his hand. It looks yellow, but, you know, I know it's not a popsicle. I know it's not, I really don't know. So I'm either going to trim it to a 3x4 or a 4x4. And I also wanted to show you a quick trick on trimming your photos. I have a customer that sells Kiwi Lane, and Kiwi Lane has these little, I don't know what you call them, other than measuring tools, but I will try to get the link from her for these if they're still available. But you can see that there is a 3x4, there are several 3x4s, and there is a 4x4. I'm taking them off the ring just for ease for this video, otherwise I leave them on the ring. And so what this allows me to do is it allows me to put this over the top of here and I can see, you know, okay, so where am I going to crop this? You know, am I going to move more of it to the red car? For some reason, I think this is a sprinkler. I don't know what this is. I do know that we used to have a water sprinkler that was yellow. It wouldn't be a dog bowl because our dogs were in the backyard. I don't know what that is, but it's definitely in the forefront of these photos, all white snow and then that bright yellow thing. So I'm really not wanting that. So, you know, that allows me to say, do I want a 3x4 here? Do I want a 3x4 here? If I were to make it a 4x4, what would that look like? You know, that kind of centers him, which the law of photos, you really don't want your subject in the center of a photo. You want to think of the photo in 2/3. So if this was split into thirds, my subject would be in the 1/3, and then you would have 2/3 of the photo that would be the landscape, or in this case, the snow. So on this one, I do think I'm going to go with the 3x4. It just makes sense. And I'm going to trim it just right on the side of this yellow, whatever that is. And then the 4x4, I definitely want to capture our son throwing the ball. So I think I'm going to have to do this, and I'm going to keep the yellow thing, but I am going to put an embellishment there probably. So this one will be a 4x4. And then of course I mentioned that these are going to be 3x4s, and those are going to be pretty easy to do. But anyways, that is just a tool. If you don't have these or if they're no longer available, just think of vellum or something like that, so you can visually see your photo and where you want to chop it on these smaller instances. So I'm going to go ahead and get these trimmed like we discussed, and then we can come back to the layout. As far as embellishments go, there are tons and tons of embellishments. For this purpose, I am going to use this cute little gnome. I've gone ahead and cut him, and I am using a sanding block just to kind of distress that sapphire cardstock along not only the score lines in his little hat, but along the edges. And then I am going to adhere him down to the base, which is almond cardstock with liquid adhesive, and that's going to kind of be the flesh tone. And then the beard and the mustache, I'm going to use thin 3D foam tape to adhere that to the base. The thin 3D foam tape will allow for a little bit of dimension, but because I'm going to have 3 layers of that, it's not going to add so much bulk to the layout. I am going to trim that piece in half using my micro tip scissors that are non-stick and go ahead and get that adhered down. And then there is this cute little nose out of the almond cardstock as well that will also be adhered using that 3D foam tape. Now the ice skates, I'm going to adhere those on with liquid adhesive, and then I am going to use this snow marker to add just a little bit of snow on those ice skates. So you just shake that up really well and then add it wherever you want. And you can see here it's liquid, but then when you heat set it like you do embossing, you definitely get that dimension. You could also do his beard, his mustache, anything like that. Another form of embellishment are these snowflakes, but I'm going to do a little bit of treatment to my cardstock. So my cardstock here is periwinkle, and I am wanting the light side to show through. So I have it up top and I've laid it over the top of those snowflakes, and I'm using my sanding block to sand those. Now you're not really getting a crisp snowflake image, of course, but I like the fact that they almost look distorted. You know how when you're taking photos, I have that one photo, they look distorted. And then those little bitty ones actually look like snowballs. So I'm going to do the same treatment to the right side of this layout. I am going to kind of finagle those because I'm thinking, how is this going to go? But I am going to get that sanded, and then we can start assembling the layout. So this periwinkle gets put on top of that snow pattern paper. I did gut that. If you're curious about gutting, I do that often just to save paper. I will leave a link to a video down below. And then I am using sapphire ink and then a blending tool to just kind of add some ink around those pattern papers to make them pop. Now, those 4x6s will be adhered using a flip flap. So I'm going to bring out my T-ruler and my Versamat and measure up 5.5, I believe that is it. So I'm going to get this flip flap adhered down, making sure that it's straight on the bottom. And then as far as that right side, remove that backing and then use my bone folder to really burnish that in. And then go ahead and get that bottom photo adhered down. Leaving my Versamat in place, I am going to attach that 3x4 photo, and then I'm going to attach 2 more 3x4s under that 4x6. Now, I did cut these a little bit smaller than 3x4 and 4x6s because originally I was going to make this a 1-page layout, but then in the end decided, no, let's go ahead and span 2 so I can add more embellishments. So for those bottom snowflakes, they didn't quite show up. So I'm just going to put those underneath and then kind of protect my photos with my finger and then go ahead and use that sanding block to get those down at the bottom. I definitely wanted something behind the gnome and my title, so I've decided to pull out periwinkle ink and just kind of add some shading behind where that gnome's going to go. I'm going to do the same up at the top for my title, and I'm just pouncing my blending brush in one spot. I know that that spot's going to be hidden by the gnome, and that just kind of gets that intense ink off of it before I start blending out. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove my Versamat. We really don't need that anymore, and then work on this gnome. He is going to be adhered directly to my layout because remember he has some dimension using that thin 3D foam tape. And then the snow day, I'm going to take the stickiness off with my anti-static pouch and use some 3D foam tape up at the top and center it over that 4x6 photo. I am pretty happy with just right now how this is going. There is, because the 4x6s aren't really 4x6s, I needed to find a way when you open and close that flip flap that they don't move so much. So I'm going to use 3 stickers that kind of flag where I'm going to put the date. A heart. I originally did not want the pink heart. I thought it would clash with the red and the orange, but in the end I end up using it and it actually doesn't look that bad. And then the other thing are these 3 little hearts in a row. So I'm going to adhere those down and then take my mini stapler. And by stapling through them, it's going to allow that top photo not to kind of move so much in that flip flap when you open and close it. So now it is time to actually use those snowflakes for what they are intended for. So I'm just adding some liquid adhesive to my layout base, as well as some of that pattern paper and getting those adhered down. There is this little sticker that says bundled up, so I'm going to put that down by that left photo to kind of bring something out past that gnome, if you will. And then there is a sentiment sticker that says hello winter that goes perfectly under that 3x4 photo. As far as my right layout, I did the same with that sponging, and I'm going to use this sticker, again, 3D foam tape, that says winter weather is better together. And then to hide that yellow piece, I have this sticker that says frozen in time. And then again, add some more of those snowflakes. Now I did decide to add some clear sparkles. So I'll bring those out and get those adhered down. And then off camera, I've actually done 2 pretty major things. Well, one major thing as far as around the layout, and then another kind of embellishment thing. So you'll want to go check out my Instagram to see those finished photos. For my journaling, I'm using our journal strip stickers. They come in 3/8 inch and 1/4 inch. I prefer the 3/8 because I write big. And I've just trimmed those to 6.5 inches. So I'm going to use a 6.5 inch up at the top. And then I'm going to use a 5.5 inch and then trim the 6.5 till probably about 5 and then use another 5.5. So I'll have 4 journaling strips that I can add my journaling here in just a second. And I love these because they're already self-adhesive. And again, you can cut them to any length that you want. So that is it for the journaling strips. Now there is that kind of little hole. I like to stagger them. So I am adding 2 more snowflakes, and then I will add another glitter gem, not glitter gem, another sparkle. I'm going to add another sparkle up there as well. I do have some close-ups to share with you. Now remember that I did add a couple of things, so you'll want to click on the Instagram link down below to check those out, as well as any other of the shopping links for that snow marker or my friend's Kiwi Lane website if you want to get those photo placeholders. And don't forget to subscribe and sign up for notifications so you won't miss another crafty video. Thanks and have a wonderful weekend.